The Bengals began preparations for Saturday's game against the Minnesota Vikings as they look to make it 3 wins in a row, the latest from Paycor Stadium, including injury updates to Ja'Marr Chase, Justin Jefferson, what Jake Browning had to say today, and much, much more right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into CBT. I'm James Rapien of allbengals.com. Please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join the 40,000 plus subscribers here on CBT. Thank you. If you've subscribed or just subscribed, if you're new, if you've watched us for years, regardless, we are really grateful and thankful for you this holiday season. And the Bengals, well, no days off. I'm at Paycor Stadium just over, I would say, about 51 hours or so after the Bengals beat the Colts and handled business, and they are full steam ahead looking at the Minnesota Vikings. And one thing is very, very clear, that Jake Browning doesn't view this as a revenge game. He was asked about 50 different ways if this meant more to him going up against the Minnesota Vikings team that he was a part of for a couple of years on their practice squad. The answer, no. And he said it in a bunch of different ways, said if anything, he feels grateful that they took a chance on him and gave him an opportunity, and what he learned there helped him get to this point in his career. So all the right answers from Jake Browning. More from him in just a minute, and you will hear from him in this video. But before we do that, Justin Jefferson would have been a limited participant had the Vikings practice today, and they had a walkthrough, and the Bengals also had a walkthrough. They didn't have practice. Now, this is what's interesting, and it could just mean rest. But Ja'Marr Chase would not have practiced today due to an ankle injury. But when asked about injuries, Zach Taylor said there was nothing significant, nothing really major to report. Obviously, anything with Ja'Marr Chase is significant, and on the injury report, it was listed as an ankle. So to me, I think that it'll be interesting to see if he practices tomorrow, because it might not mean anything. Like I said, it's 51 hours removed from the game, and this is usually an off day, and because they're playing Saturday, everything's bumped up. So we will monitor his status, certainly, going into Saturday's game, and it is a huge game. It's a huge game for this offense. Obviously, this Bengals team needs every guy they can get on the field, and one thing is very, very clear just in doing some research on the Vikings, and obviously they had a shutout on Sunday against the Raiders. And it is the Raiders, but it's still an NFL team. The Vikings defense is really, really good. And this is the toughest test that Jake Browning is going to have faced, I think, including that Steelers defense from a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see how he performs on Saturday. Plenty of time to discuss that and discuss this rushing attack and the screens and everything that's worked, if that will continue. But one thing that stood out, a few things stood out. First off, I have jokes. Jake Browning obviously left Sunday's game with a thumb cramp. His hand was cramping. He was probable to return, and he came back and returned to the game. He was dehydrated. And so naturally, when he came into his press conference drinking water, I had to make this joke. Should we make the water joke or just let it go?
Let it go.
Sue me. I had to. And I think he certainly understood that. I also asked Jake about his confidence, because one thing that stood out to me about Jake, and I talked to him even during training camp. I talked to him at his locker when he was battling with Trevor Siemian. And I remember, I think it was either before the Atlanta game or maybe right after. I think it was before, though, when it was clear to me that he was the leader in the clubhouse, that he was well ahead of Trevor Siemian. And, man, I honestly, looking back, it's wild that was ever a competition. But at one point it was. And Jake ran away with the job. And at one point I talked to him. I was like, man, you've been good in every preseason game up to a point. And then there was like a moment where it flipped against the Packers. And then against, I think it was Atlanta, he had a really rough interception late, and then he led them down for the go-ahead score in that one, and then it ended up being a tie, and then he clinched it in that final preseason game. He had 2 drives, they went and scored, and he was good to go. But I was like, in all of these games, you were really close to being good in all of them, and it was more the practice stuff. And so he's always been confident. And so I asked him if right now his confidence has changed, if he's even more confident now than he was, say, a week and a half ago when he hadn't put up the numbers and led the Bengals to back-to-back wins.
I don't know. I feel like I'm like a little bit naturally go against the grain where everyone says it's going really well, and I'm kind of like, it's not going as well as everybody says, and then everybody says it's terrible. I'm like, oh, it's actually a lot better than everybody says. So I don't know. I think really the biggest adjustment has been like I'm so tired of talking about myself. Like it's I don't have that many opinions on a lot of different things, and I'm like sitting in my locker before this, like trying to formulate, okay, what is my opinion? I don't really have one, and so I'm trying to like come up with one, give you guys an answer. But yeah, I think that's really been the biggest adjustment. Is just now it's everybody wants to know what do you think about blah blah blah. What do you, like, I don't, not a whole lot. Like it's just very simple.
I think that's a really genuine answer. He could have given me some kind of, oh yeah, feel better, feel more comfortable answer, and instead he was pretty real. And I like that. I like that he's being as authentic as he can be up here. And he was sitting right here and saying, I don't have thoughts on a lot of this stuff. I know you guys were going to ask me. And he's, you know what he's probably thinking about? He's thinking about that Vikings defense and what Brian Flores is going to roll out. And he's thinking about getting rest because it was 51 hours removed from the game. I mean, it's such a quick turnaround from then to now, to where this is Wednesday. Usually they have a whole nother day. You have a whole nother mental reset. Even for media, you have a whole nother mental reset. Well, you don't get that this week. And that's fine. I'm fine. I'm not asking for sympathy, but I'm just saying he sitting at his locker thinking about what he's going to say, what he's going to get asked. And I don't know if he was ready for all the Vikings questions, or maybe he was ready, but they were like half the news conference was about the Vikings. And as far as him playing there and his history with the team and who coached him, because it's a new coach, new GM, all of those things. So not a revenge game to him, but what I think it is, and something that he's very aware of, because he was asked about it being such a big game. He's like, they're all big games to me because my resume is short and I'm only going to get so many opportunities. And I love that part about him too. He's very aware. He said up here, I asked him about that, if he's allowed himself to think about what this could mean for his career before he got his first start against the Steelers. And obviously he'll start the rest of the way. And so I think he's aware, he understands it, and he knows that he's going to have to go out there and prove it each and every week. If he's going to stay in this league and continue to maybe get on the field and push for one of those starting jobs one day, maybe, obviously that wouldn't be here, but certainly it could be somewhere. I will say this, because I've gotten asked about his contract a lot. He's an exclusive rights free agent, restricted free agent. He's going to be a Bengal next year. And that's what his play over the past couple of weeks I think is guaranteed, barring something really unforeseen. They can bring him back for like $970,000. Perfect backup. It's exactly what you want. So I would expect Jake Browning to be on the roster in 2024, but there's plenty of time to talk about that. We will have you covered. We will be right back here at Paycor Stadium on Wednesday with the latest from the locker room. I'm sure we'll hear from Jamar Chase, hopefully, if that ankle is doing okay. Looking at maybe T. Higgins. And make sure you check out our Chase Brown interview as well. If you missed that, he talked today, and he's a star on the field. I really like talking to him off the field, and I think you'll enjoy that one as well. This video brought to you by Rivertown Inquiry and rivertowninquiry.com. The holidays are here. You got to get there. rivertowninquiry.com. They have 2 locations, Findlay Market and Oakley. They have something for you, whether it's orange and black gear, anything in between. Maybe you're looking for a Cincy hat with Ted Karras. You can get them in person at Rivertown Inquiry or rivertowninquiry.com. For Andrew Fox-Miller, our channel coordinator, I'm James Rapien, signing off for now. Thank you so much for watching Cincinnati Bengals Talk.